soul.
This is Bass Talk Live. Your host, Mark Jeffries and Matt Pangrack. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Lose, Strike King Lures, Bass Cat Boats, Ducket Fishing, Spro, AFCO, Big Bite Baits, Sunline, and TH Marine. BTL coming at you. Good Tuesday, everybody. Welcome once again to another edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Matthew already screwed up. It's not Tuesday. It's Wednesday.
I think that might be the first time you've ever done that.
Yeah. I don't know why I was thinking about Tuesday. Yesterday was a really good day, I guess. I don't know. But today is Wednesday, the Wednesday night jackpot. Me and Matthew going to get after it. I'm going to be in the back of the boat just fishing.
So we are.
Oh, yeah.
Now here's the problem.
What's that?
I left the GoPros at home.
I don't know. But today is
Whoa.
Wednesday. Why are you doing that?
I don't know. I've got the audio on.
Yeah.
Wow, you want to just start the show over now? You called it the wrong day. I had my audio on, tried to look at the comments. I forgot my GoPros at the house.
I even called you last night.
I know.
Reminded you.
I had some issues this morning. I had 2 issues this morning. It rained last night up there around Tulsa, and I forgot the drain plug again. And I had taken the cover off last night to get some stuff ready for today.
Yeah.
So I was like, I got out there at 5:45 in the morning, and I said, crap, there's water. So I took it out, and then I realized I've got the worst kind of slow leak in a tire that you can have. It's one that needs to be aired up about every week and a half.
Okay, they have this place called Hibdon's.
I know.
You just take it by there to get it fixed.
I haven't been in there yet. It's easy to get fixed. It's free. I had one in the other, but I've got...
Yeah.
So then I realized it had been a week and a half. So then I had to back it up, get the air compressor out, fill it up with air. Then I realized it's 6:05, and if everything goes smoothly, I'll get in the studio at 8:15, which I did. And in the process, it wasn't until about the Keystone exit that I realized the GoPros are at home. You have one? Do you have one here?
Yeah, it's not charged up. I don't have a rack for it. The racks are at school.
I'm just telling you what happened. Stuff happens,
To
Mark.
me, that is just an excuse. That's my old school ways. All right? To you and probably everybody else in the world, hey, you're just a victim of circumstance.
Yeah. So there's 2 other places where there will be no GoPros. The Bassmaster Open on Lake Oneida, which we mentioned before, but Bass actually did come out with a press release about that they are hoping to reschedule it later in the year. And then also the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame induction ceremony also canceled for later this year, which you were on the board of.
Yeah, and those guys are still going to get recognized when that takes place. They'll just recognize 2 classes in 2021. So it's not like they're going to be forgotten or anything like that. They will have their day in Springfield. That event is a great event. A lot of people work their tails off to put that event on, and it's unfortunate, once again, the corona just takes something else down. But hopefully in 2021, those guys will be able to be recognized at the Hall of Fame banquet and dinner and get together in 2021.
It also appears as though we both did some homework last night, because I spoke to an individual who he's been fishing Lake Ontario and the river for the better part of the last 2 weeks.
All right, real quick before you say that, because I'm interested in who you spoke with, I did reach out to Brandon Polinick because in the discussion on the show yesterday, you and I thought that they were going to have an off day today. Today is not an off day for them. They have another day of practice today. And Brandon told me, he's like, hey, dude, love to come on the show, talk about it, but I'll be fishing. We have another day of practice. So that is why I did not reach out for any of the other guys to try and get them on. One being the cell service, two, the fact that they were still practicing one more day here on the Elite Series. But I did reach out to somebody that knows what the heck is going on. And I'm talking about Dave Mercer. And Dave Mercer, here in about 5-10 minutes, is going to join us and kind of give us a rundown on what his expectations are for this week on the SLR.
Yes.
All right?
And I spoke with Smallmouth Crush's Travis Manson, who had been scheduled to be up there.
You have a man crush on him, man.
No, I don't. You're just saying that because we got Miles Burghoff on in the second half of the show. Travis is a friend of mine.
He is your Miles.
No, he's not. I talk to him like once a month. Here's when I talked to Travis Manson. At the beginning of the pandemic, I talked to him once a week to get his latest conspiracy theories. That was entertaining
You're on
to
his
me.
show all the time.
I found that to be hubris. He's asked me to be on his show twice, once of which was with Morgan Thaler and Mansu.
Yeah.
And I got them set up and wasn't even on the show till after hours.
All right. So what did he say?
So anyway, he was just planning on fishing Ontario when they originally wouldn't have been able to fish Ontario. And he said it's interesting. It's not a slug. It has the potential to be a slugfest, but there are a lot of areas that are out of play because they're in Canada,
right?
That are historically good on Lake Ontario. And he said that the spawn in the spring, all that stuff was normal. Yeah. And then they had high water and it's warm and the thermocline is all jacked up out there. So where the fish normally would be and stuff, he's they're in odd spots.
On the big water?
Yes. And suspended and doing all sorts of crazy stuff in areas that they hadn't been in.
Interesting.
So he thinks that the potential's still there for mega bags to come in.
100 pounds? What'd he say?
I after talking with him, I think 100's unlikely. I think it's more in the 90s.
Nah.
But he said if you can figure it out, it's fun, very fun. He said he's had some of the best days ever. He said he's also had some of the worst days ever because he said the fish just aren't. He said you can't just go out there where you always go and drop down and catch them.
Okay.
He said electronics will be very key. He said understanding how smallmouth behave will be very key. He said understanding that it is not typically the way it is will be very key. He said there will be guys who figure that out, though.
All right. I hope they push the century mark. That would be
I
really
would really
cool.
like to. The other thing he said was he's the border's no joke. He's I'd be okay, for lack of a better term, if there's someone who's going to push it and just be we'll just ease over into Canada and make a few drops.
Not going to happen.
It would be Travis Manson. He would do that. No, he's not doing that. He's I have heard enough stories from friends on both sides of the border to be spooked enough to stay away from it. Just as far as, getting escorted back.
Yeah.
Threats.
Not good.
Yeah. So.
Not good at all.
There you go.
All right, so we'll see. We'll see if they push the 100-pound mark, the century mark, and I am hopeful that they will. That is a big wild card. It'll be interesting to see how many of the field will make that decision and go to the big water.
Yeah, I mean, with it going out of Clayton, I think everyone will at least sample it.
You would think.
It's pretty dang close there. I mean, a lot closer than Waddington.
And the wind's going to cooperate according to the forecast.
Yeah, I wonder if anybody will go the other way back towards Waddington. We've seen some guys catch them within a couple miles, even the opposite direction. Instead of going left towards the lake, you go right towards that dam there. I wonder if anybody will make the run back away from the lake.
I don't know. We'll see what Dave Mercer has to say about the whole deal. We'll have him on here very, very quickly. All right, man. Anything else? Any other news? I know the Hall of Fame cancellation was the big news that came down yesterday. For those that are wondering, I have had some questions about the U.S. Open and the California Open, and I did speak to Billy Egan, and as far as Billy is right this moment, everything is on plan.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was actually an article that came out yesterday that we did not mention by Brian Brasher there on Bassett. Menendez is out for the rest of the season.
Back issues?
Back issues.
Yeah.
So following doctor's order. So, I mean, I guess if there's a year that you're going to miss.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
You don't have to worry about the rescheduling or the housing or anything like that. Like everybody gets to requalify for
no
it,
medical red
so.
shirt required. Everybody gets a call back. So, All right. Well, hopefully he will heal up. And man, so many guys have had back issues in this game. Numerous.
Other news. Brad Hallman and Castledine went out on Scott Martin's boat. You know, they're rooming with Scott Martin, part of Team SFC.
Yeah.
They went down to the Keys and went out on his yacht/fishing boat.
Offshore rig.
Yeah. And all that stuff is up on Scott Martin's YouTube channel. So if you want
Did they hammer him?
Yeah, they hammered him, but they didn't hammer... I guess it'd be equivalent to like going out and catching white bass. Like they caught some easy species.
Yeah.
But they didn't get on like the exotic, crazy stuff.
Okay.
You'll have to just watch it. But yeah, there's a lot of action in there. Brad catches a monster. I don't want to spoil the fun. And they get into some schooling and topwater action. And I mean, it's a vintage Scott Martin stuff. I mean, it's like a 4 or 5 part video series with all of his guys having fun, but it's very entertaining. But, you know, if you listen to the show, if you like listening to Bradley, you get to see him unwind a little bit offshore, catch some big stuff, hang out a little bit, cut up with Scott Martin and the crew. So I think that's all the news we had. That was a news-packed first segment.
Yeah. All right, well, let's take a break. Hopefully come back with Mr. Dave Mercer and get his take on what's going to go down on the SLR this week. Everybody stay tuned. We'll be right back on a Wednesday.
The ultimate fishing system starts with Lowrance HDS Live. The best fish finding tools, from chirp sonar and fish reveal to side scan and down scan imaging, and complete touchscreen control from your trolling motor to your big motor.
We've paired one of the most iconic hulls in the history of bass boats with a proven lineup of trusted accessories. We're bringing you best-in-class value and performance, leaving others in your wake. Turnkey value, turnkey performance. The Pantera 2 is an overachiever in the 19-foot category. Once you hit the throttle, you'll feel the rush, and there's no looking back.
Kevin, what are you doing here?
Oh, I'm just filling in for Billy.
I need a 660 shad crankbaits in the Series 5 model.
We're out.
You're not out. You got all kinds of them right there.
We're out.
Kevin, I need 6.
Have a lollipop.
I do not want a lollipop.
Have a lollipop.
Do you have it the sexy shad color?
As a professional angler, you've got so many things on your mind. Any advantage that we have is key. And not only rods and reels and lines and baits, but in our clothes. And the guys at AFCO, I mean, they have something for every situation. There's nothing AFCO hasn't thought about with the fishermen in mind. It's designed for fishermen, by fishermen, for every scenario you can come to. Any fish, any water, any condition, AFCO has you covered.
Yeah, you care about gear ratios, inches per turn, and ball bearings, but most importantly, you want reliability and dependability in the equipment you use. Lew's doesn't cut corners when it comes to the gear they build. The new Speed Spool LFS is the best $99 reel in the market. Go see for yourself.
The name SPRO says it all. SPRO stands for Sports Professionals. When you look at the pro staff that SPRO has brought on board over the past 15 years, it's been pretty incredible. I mean, one got it just then. From the development of the rock crawler to the McStick, from the Fat Papa to the Little John series, when you tie a SPRO bait on, You know it's been designed by a professional to get the job done.
All right, we are back on a Wednesday, ready to go to special guest number 1. And very interested in getting his take on what his thoughts are about this week on the SLR. So it is via the phone. Let's bring him in right now. Dave, you there, man?
I am. I'm nervous. I think I got to go back to work.
Yeah, it's been a while, man. I can't thank you enough. I know you're super busy, man, but just a crazy couple of weeks in the world of bass fishing for you guys. And Matt and I just want to get your take on really your thoughts on what's went down the last 2-3 weeks and then what we can expect this week.
Well, first of all, I'm thankful that I was not Eric Lopez or Trip Weldon the last 2 weeks or any of the staff. I mean, because I know that it's literally been tireless work that's gone in. And even if you look at, the event that we had to cancel, I mean, you look at when it got canceled and how it got canceled, that shows you one thing. That wasn't just work on the end of Bass. That was the work on the end of New York, really, just trying to make it happen. So, unfortunately, that one didn't, but we're ready to go. I mean, we're moving up the river just a little ways, and it's going to answer the big question everybody's always asked, since year one. The first time we went to Waddington, Paul Nick made the big heroic run out to the lake, and everybody's always said, well, is the river better than the lake? Is the lake better than the river? We're going to find out this week, because they're going to be able to fish the lake, and one of the major reasons I believe in all of this, like most of the stuff I say, is officially unofficial. I don't know all the details that went into moving, but I believe a big part of it was just simply knowing that they're only going to be able to fish U.S. water this time around. So give them as much water as possible, and why not give them a Great Lake? I mean, there's enough room for them to catch them out there. That's for sure.
I mean, my only question, Dave, is do you make your own travel reservations and stuff, or does Bass handle that and you just show up? Because I would believe that would be a nightmare this year.
Well, actually, it's not as hard as you would think, because nobody's going anywhere. So,
but I mean, do you have to do all that, or are you at a level to where Bass just says, "Hey, this is where you're staying, this is where you're coming. Now that's canceled. Now this is where you're staying, this is where you're going."
Yes. Actually, I am at that level, and just so visually, when people hear that, yes, you're at that level, so they book. No, that just means they put me in whatever crap hole they want to put me in. But you could imagine moving around how tough that's been for everything. But guys, I'm going to say one thing. We've heard a lot of stuff over the last number of months. Thank God we all work in the fishing world. Really, when you see what's happening in the world. I mean, if you guys were doing a show on restaurant equipment, you probably would be not feeling the same as you are in the fishing world. We are very, very lucky that the fishing world is actually, feeling some benefit from all of this madness the last number of months.
Yes, 100% agree, Dave. All right, man. A big topic of discussion for Matt and I on the show is, will we see somebody get close to breaking the century mark this week? What are your thoughts?
There's a really good shot, guys. We've stopped him twice. If you look statistically, on the 3 derbies he won that were just 3-day derbies, he was well on his way to 100 pounds. And I don't think anybody would argue with what people saw happen on Lake St. Clair. He would have got it if there was a 4th day. But if there's ever been a shot with the lake being open, I really think they got a great shot at it this week. And you're going to have – this is a heavyweight battle. I mean, even when Polinick won way back when he made that big run into the river, all I heard about at that moment was, well, it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if the Johnstons were in the field. Well, Now they are. I mean, you look at the smallmouth superpowers that are about to collide. Those brothers, Paul and Nick Fighter, and look at the Southern guys. Don't forget Lester, who came very close to winning this event. It's really, I mean, I'm excited because I haven't worked in a long time, but I'm really excited about this event and the fact that it's on ESPN2 for as many hours as it is. Like, if you really stop to think about it, that doesn't even feel real to me. Like, really just say that to yourself. On Friday morning, you're going to be able to turn on ESPN and watch bass fishing all day long. I mean, it's a bizarre world, but thank God some of this stuff is working out positive for the fishing world.
My real question is, I mean, the Johnson brothers, how good they are. What percent of their time do you think has been spent in U.S. waters, and how much of an impact will it be both mentally and physically where they have to fish to know, well, I can't go over here, and I know there's 26 pounds sitting over here that's been there every year for the past 10 years, and I've got to go find them in the U.S. side. Have they spent any time on that side, or is it going to be a familiar body of water but having to refine new spots?
I believe that it's going to limit, obviously, the water that they can fish and the water that they have. But if you think that they only catch their fish in Canada, you're sorely mistaken. And in some ways, really, Tanger, you think about it, it could help them when you really, like, you can look at the negative part where you're in your head, you're always going to be like, I can't fish that water. But also in your head, one of the toughest things, and you guys, your home field advantage, you've talked about it for years, but one of the toughest things to overcome in a home field event is having too much to go to, especially on big water events when you can really just nuke your entire day. If you try to cover too much, you're going to get beat by a dude who sits on one area and works it. And in some ways, this could actually help them. I mean, by limiting the area that they can go to. I mean, obviously, they wish they could go to the Canadian water, but everybody's under the same standards. And if you ask me, if you had said to them, hey, you can fish Canada and U.S. waters and only fish the river, or you can only fish U.S. water and the lake is wide open, I'm pretty sure I know the decision they would have made.
Wow. A number of people on the instant feedback, Dave, they want to know what are some of the challenges that you have to go through in being a part of the show with the whole Canadian U.S. travel situation. Is that difficult? What do you have to go through?
No different than anybody that works in the U.S. It's my job, so I am allowed to cross, but there is some extra, screening and that sort of thing that we go through. A lot of that is done in advance, thanks to Bass and all the customs people that worked with us and helped us do that. But there is, it's always an adventure, I guess. Let's just put it that way. I mean, I'll let you know when I get across this afternoon. It's always an adventure. You never know what you're going to run into, but for the most part, everybody's been great, and there's been less lineups at the borders, obviously. And my biggest challenge this week is the most exciting thing. I mean, everybody gets excited about coming to, St. Lawrence River and giant smallmouth. Well, one of the things that I love is the giant crowds, and we're not going to have them this time around, which kind of sucks. But, man, I'm just happy that we're going to be back. Like, I think I'm like most sports fans across the world. When all this first started and people were like, well, they're going to play hockey without fans, so they're going to play football without fans, I was like, that can never happen. And now I'm like, good God, just hit a ball, a puck, something, throw a lawn dart. I don't care. Just bring it back.
Yeah.
Wow.
How much more time? And obviously it moved from Waddington to Clayton due to logistics, which, I mean, Waddington is such a cool, I mean, it's kind of becoming
really neat
it's
environment.
becoming like the Yankee Stadium of smallmouth tournament bass fishing, like with all everything around there. But it moved to Clayton. You're kind of familiar with that area. If I remember right, 2013, Polinick had a little bit of wind, had to make the run. There's some 35-mile zones. Then you get out there. It was wavy. He fished for like 2 hours one of the days, or even less than that, maybe 2.5, 3 hours, going out of Clayton with a calm forecast and the lake in play. Let's say a guy gets on the mother load of smallmouth in the lake. I mean, how long are they going to be able to fish, or is it going to be more about the fishing and less about the running?
100%. I mean, I would assume. I mean, I would assume that we're not going to see anybody run more than an hour, tops. I would assume, And the other thing is, it's going to be interesting with them locked in just U.S. water where guys will run to. There might be some stuff that we haven't been used to seeing in the past. You know what I mean? Because there is that point where if you're running from, Waddington, which we've been traditionally doing, you just can't get any further than what Palnick did, which isn't that far out of Henderson Harbor, really. And if you look at that right now, that's nothing. And so it's going to be very interesting. But the other part of it that I'm interested in is I think the river will play more than most people think. I believe over the number of years that we've had those tournaments, fish move around those rivers, through tournament weigh-ins, they definitely move around, but also just through people, fishing that area more. And I think you're going to see a lot of our, especially southern anglers that are a lot more familiar with the river. It'll be very interesting. Yeah, I'm interested to see how much that plays, because I'll give you an example. There's a big Canadian tournament that two of the last 3 years, it's been won out of the river, where everybody said the lake was going to be the place to go. Somebody went to the river, and when the event's not run out of the river, those river fish get such little pressure. It just changes it totally. I mean, if you look at what we've seen Lucas do, if you look at what we've seen Josh Bertrand do, imagine just having that to yourself.
It's crowded.
And there's going to be guys like that.
Yeah.
It's very crowded. And I asked to run because a couple years ago I practiced with Big Show, Terry Scroggins, and we put in at Waddington. And he said, we'll make a little bit of a run here. Well, he ran to the mouth. And I'm like sitting there and I just shoot photos. I'm like, that was a long run. And for the next day and a half, I just had that, that ringing in your ears. I mean, it was a solid hour run to get down there. And you can know what you can do on smallmouth with an extra 3 hours is insane.
Yeah. Hey, Dave, a couple of quick questions and then we'll let you go. Dave on the instant feedback has a really good question. With no marshals, how is Bass Track going to work? Do you know how that's going to work? And how is that going to tie in to potentially, making it a little tougher from the live coverage? What are the guys going to do? Any idea? Are they going to key it in themselves?
The guys are going to be keying it in themselves. I'm assuming that would be voluntarily. Let's be honest with what lays ahead for the guys with all the coverage in ESPN2 and everything like that. I mean, they're very voluntarily wanting to support everything. You know what I mean? Where a guy might be like, I'm not taking the time to key that in the past. And it's also, I mean, that's what the world is doing. People are doing crap they just didn't do in the past, So there will be that. What we'll be doing is we got more boats on the water that are going to be running around. Myself, Davey Height will be on the water, Bowman and everybody. We're going to be kind of filling in for some of those marshals in certain areas, meaning that, when it comes to Skyping and that sort of thing, when we get a leader, we'll move around a lot more throughout the day. And so it's, I'll let you know, I mean, how's it going to affect Bass Track? It's probably not going to be near as effective. I'll let you know at the end of the weekend. But hey, one point I wanted to make about time, Tanger. You know what time does on this river and what time does on the Great Lakes? It allows you to recover. And what I mean by that is if you make that run for 3 and you've only got 3 hours to fish out in the lake, every angler in the world understands that feeling when you get there and it's just not right and it's not going to happen, but you don't have time to recover. You don't have time to just do an about face and totally change it. If you turn those 3 hours of fishing into 6 hours, now you got time to recover. And that makes guys like Palnick and guys like the Johnstons and Fighter and stuff even more lethal because they're not apt to make that little stumble.
I was having this conversation with someone exactly. I said, you know what? I said the Open on the Arkansas River and a Great Lakes event, I said, are remarkably similar. I said, what do you mean? I said, well, they're opposite fisheries, but you have a decision to make. And once you make that decision, you're committed. Like you run 40 minutes, lock down, and know that you're going to have 3 hours to fish. That's what you're doing. You have that one decision to make. It's like when you decide to make that 2.5 hour run out there on that shoal and something has changed with the bait and they're no longer there, you're out on that shoal. You can't run around the Great Lakes and figure it. So they're remarkably similar and different.
Yeah.
I got one more question for him then.
I know he's crunched on time.
I know that, but this is a vital, important question.
Okay.
Smallmouth fishing is typically boring when it comes to lures. You got a drop shot, you got a tube, maybe a jerkbait or a spinnerbait if it's. However, the St. Lawrence has been different. We have seen a spy bait dominate. We have seen the hair jig that kind of came into play there, where a lot of people heard about, found out about the hair jig. We've even seen big swim baits play for smallmouth on the St. Lawrence. Is there a smallmouth technique out there that that a lot of guys up there know, oh, this is going to be exposed this time when they go to the St. Lawrence, or is it going to be familiar stuff?
Ooh, I'm trying to think about what hasn't been exposed, really. I mean, about the only thing that that I haven't seen happen in a tournament yet for smallmouth is spoon fishing really play in a big way. You know what I mean? In bigger spoons, you see a lot of guys throwing bigger spoons for those smallmouth, like bigger than you would ever imagine. Literally like the big stuff you throw for largemouth.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that's the mystery of that fishery, and that's what I love about it. And it will be interesting to see how changing to the lake changes the event. Does it turn it into a straight up drop shot tournament where everybody's got their head pointed down and it looks like we're back in Dunkirk, or does it stay, the way we've seen in the past? It'll be very interesting to see that. I think it's going to be a bit of both, because I really don't think, I think with the amount of experience that our field has in the river, you can't tell me that, especially with the pre-fish. I mean, 2 of the 3 days they had to pre-fish were rough out on the Great Lake, so I think that some of those guys that are more used to, not the big bodies of water, may just rely on the river more. So we'll see a lot of different techniques play. But big spoon's about the only thing I can think of right now that, I mean, there's other stuff, but I'm never going to tell you that crap on here right now. I mean,
no. Especially him.
I'll
Dave.
tell you one thing that will play: a freaking Berkeley flatworm.
Oh God, I hope that we were going to get through this damn interview without hearing about a flatworm.
It's all right.
You got Mercer out there talking about fishing it under a cork like a night crawler.
It is okay.
I do half of the stuff you do in some of those videos, and I go out and it doesn't work in Oklahoma.
By the way,
flatworm under a cork.
That was really cool.
Doesn't work on Thunderbird.
That was really, really cool.
Panger, sometimes it's the magician and sometimes it's the wand.
Fair point.
Would be my answer.
Yeah, fair point.
I thought that was really cool. All right, man, 2 quick questions real quick, and then I'll let you go. Brian from Norman wants to know, do you think that the rescheduling of Cayuga will take place in the north or the south, and will they get it in?
I have absolutely no idea.
Okay.
It's the honest answer to that. I mean, it's a buddy of mine I was talking to yesterday said it best. He told me I've been wrong for the last 4 months, and that's kind of where I'm at with everything. I mean, we're going to do everything we can to get it as close to what it was supposed to be, but at this point, my theory is let's just have tournaments while we can have tournaments.
Yeah.
I mean, let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man, last question. Is it going to be won in the big water or the river? What do you think?
It'll be one in the lake.
Right.
I 100% believe it'll be one in the lake. I just don't. I've always professed that the lake fish just weigh a little heavier, and unless we get some crazy weather, which I'm scared to even say it, but if you look at the forecast, it looks okay. Unless we get some crazy weather that messed it up, I believe this tournament will be one in the lake.
All right, man. Can't thank you enough for taking time out. I know you're a busy man, but really appreciate some insights on what's going to go down on the SLR this week, man. Be safe, Dave. Look forward to seeing you soon, man.
Great chatting, guys. Take care.
All right, man. Take care, Dave. There you have it. Dave Mercer. And good stuff, Matthew.
There are a bunch of guys, there was a massive turnover on the Bassmaster Elite Series a couple years ago, right, Mark?
Yeah.
But one of the things that's interesting is you go back to the first time they were there in 2013, and half of the field that finished in the top 12 in that tournament is still competing on the Elite Series. Now, Polinick and Swindle missed a year there, but you're talking guys who have 4 or 5 years of experience on that body of water, where typically when we go to them with the turnover, there's not that many guys who have that much experience on it. You either have FLW guys where the tours didn't go there, newer Elite Series guys, but I mean, you've got Polinick and Perch and Schultz and Kennedy and Pipkins and Swindle. All those guys, top tenors throughout the past 5 years out there. So I think, and the guys that they added are like even better than them out there.
Gonna be fun to watch, man. Really fun to watch. All right, we're gonna take a break. Come back with Miles Burghoff here on a Wednesday. Everybody, stay tuned.
All of us on the Pro Tournament Trail use Gamakatsu hooks.
Why?
Because they are absolutely the best.
It's not about how many bites you get.
It's how many you put in the boat.
Gamakatsu makes hooks for every fishing style.
We didn't come this far to lose fish.
Did you?
For more information, visit gamakatsu.com.
The Big Bite Baits Kamikaze Swim On is a very unique bait, and it's got a full body but with ribs to give it a bigger profile but not more plastic. It's got a jointed tail that gives it a lot of action, as well as this up and down crawl type trail with holes and ribs in it, so it creates a bubble trail almost. This bait is supposed to be fished upside down or vertical like this on a great for a chatterbait. I prefer it on a swim jig as well, but you can also cut it down and put it on the back of a finesse jig. You know, flip it around for some spotted bass or flipping docks. Anytime you want a small, compact, you know, little trailer for it, this is great for it. So check out the full lineup of swim-ons at bigbitebaits.com.
At Duckett Fishing, we have assembled the top pros in the country to help us design rods to give you a competitive advantage. Castability, strength, durability, action, sensitivity, weight and balance, and consistency. Combine that with the best warranty in the industry, and you have rods that are pro-driven.
Duckett Fishing, pro-driven.
Blue Water by TH Marine, offering LED lighting solutions for your boat, trailer, truck, ATV, and so much more. Engineered and built to be rugged with waterproof and submersible options. Designed for easy installation, Blue Water is available in a variety of colors and styles. All backed by a limited lifetime warranty. Blue Water by TH Marine.
Let's face it, fishing electronics are no longer an afterthought. They've become a necessity. And at the Bass Tank, our experts match you with the right electronics, provide professional installation, and educate you to help maximize your catching results while providing support along the way. Because let's be honest, it's about catching, not just fishing. And when you're ready for better results, join the Bass Tank team. Visit us today on Facebook or go to thebasstank.com.
Hey everybody, Todd Faircloth here. Want to show you one of my favorite braided lines, SX1 30-pound Sunline braid. I use this braided line for a couple of different applications, and one of my favorites to use for this line is a swim jig. Casts great, and it's small diameter, and just works really great on a swim jig. Another technique I like to use for 30-pound SX1 Sunline braid is whenever I'm flipping like a light, say an 1/8 to a 1/4 ounce weight in grass, small diameter, I don't lose much action on my worm, just works great in those scenarios. So if you're looking for a braided line for a swim jig or fishing a light Texas rig, check out Sunline's SX1 30-pound braid.
All right, we are back. Time to go to our next guest. And that was some really good stuff from Dave. Can't wait to see what happens, man. It's going to be a slugfest. Big time. Big time. And, all right, man. Do we need to remind everybody what you did to try and get back at me with Miles? He was really cool to do.
I didn't do anything. You just happened to send in a video that you're the president of the Miles Burghoff fan club. However, I will say for the second year of the row, he is relevant. He's very relevant.
Yes, he is.
Last time he was on, I believe that I complimented him by saying that he's good at not sucking. And now I am saying that he is relevant because if you look at the FLW Pro circuit standings, you have the guy who never practices, Rod Nelson, who just shows up and fishes the tournaments, leading it. But Miles is less than 100 points behind, holding down the number 10 spot with 2 to go.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, it'll be a tuner plus boat field with the BPT anglers in it, but the points only count for the 150 or so FLW Pro circuit anglers. So a really good tournament here, and a little bit goes his way. Miles then goes into the conclusion of the year on Lake Erie now.
Yeah.
To try to win the Angler of the Year and then make the title on Sturgeon Bay.
How about that? Miles, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me, guys. It's been so long.
It has been.
I think this is the first time this year, I think.
It is. And Matt says you're on the show all the time.
No, you were on earlier this year.
Was he?
Spirit.
Remember?
I don't remember.
Not this year.
Oh, okay.
Not this year.
See? Giving me all kinds of grief for no reason. Anyway, I thought it'd be great to have him on. As you mentioned, Matt, the dude's having a great year, and with 3 events remaining, I thought it would be cool to have him on here, number one, to talk about his season, because he's got an 18th, a 6th, a 6th, and then just a horrible performance. Honestly, all right, a 90th at Martin. I mean, I'm just speaking the truth here, Miles.
100%.
But you have set yourself up very similar to what you had last year and put yourself in position to win the title, to make it to the BPT and really, really solidify where you are in moving up and being one of the top players in this game. So, having said that, dude, what are you going to do based upon what you learned from last year? And how is your outlook on these 3 remaining events, even with all the changes?
Honestly, my outlook on the next 2 events, because I'm looking forward to the 2 regular season events first, and then worry about the title once I qualify for that. But I'm not going to change a whole lot. I mean, last year, as you recall, I was leading Angler of the Year 5 tournaments in, and then the last 2 tournaments, Chickamauga and Champlain, I fell flat on my face. So in those tournaments, as bad as they were for me, there was just a very small, narrow line that I was walking between total failure and doing pretty well in those events. Chickamauga just came down to lack of experience on this body of water. I've said it so many times that the Tennessee River, specifically Gunnersville and Chickamauga, are my worst tournament fisheries. I tend to make terrible decisions, and I kind of broke that streak a little bit at the last event. And so I really struggled in that event last year, which wasn't a big surprise to me. I was doing the right thing to do well. I was throwing that wacky rig, same exact wacky rig that the guys at the top were throwing, a swim jig. I was doing all the right stuff. I was just in the wrong area of the lake, and I wasn't able to kind of read the lake and understand where those big fish had gone in that portion of the lake. And then Champlain, I just made some poor decisions during practice and didn't actually fish the moment. I was fishing against myself. So going into these next couple events, I'm really not going to change my process. I'm going to embrace my process and just go out there and just kind of let it happen like it normally does. And I'm really going to listen to myself. One thing that I've learned is the ones that I've done terrible at in the last couple of years, those are the times that I second guess myself. So I'm going to work towards not second guessing myself.
All right.
You're gonna have to fish for smallmouth on a Great
Right.
Lakes body of water. You just look at your stats, and it's not that you're not good doing that. You could be the greatest smallmouth fisherman of all time. It's just that you really haven't done it much, right?
I have no idea if I'm good at smallmouth fishing yet. I actually started out with smallmouth in Connecticut. That was the first bass that I ever remember catching. But you've got varying degrees of smallmouth, and Great Lakes is completely different game than anything else. And so I've been to Erie once to fish for smallmouth. I actually did a show with Bob Azumi back in the day. He's a Canadian superstar.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Good guy to know.
Yeah, 2007, I went out with him and fished on Erie, and we had a great day. We caught like 25-pound worth of smallmouth, and I caught 2 over 6, like a 6.5 and a 6.10. So I'm salivating right now thinking about smallmouth fishing, but I have no idea how it's going to go.
You would think with your prowess with the electronics that it would be like your wheelhouse. Like, I'm shocked that you haven't gone up there and done that. If you just talk to all the guys who smallmouth fish, I mean, a lot of them have a lot of inches of graph on their console and on the front of the boat.
Well, I'm set up for that for sure. I mean, the partnership that I have with bassboatelectronics.com has really helped me with that, and so I'm set up. I have no excuses really going into this event, and the only thing is that it is going to be a big learning curve. I think smallmouth fishing, you can make it. It's very simple from what I understand, and so you got to either keep it simple and not overcomplicate it. But so that's something I'm going to be fighting is trying to overcomplicate it out there on the water during practice, probably.
Interesting. All right, man. Mentally and from a preparation standpoint, what did you learn from last year that you're taking into this year?
That honestly, my process it works for me. So embracing my preparation process and the fact that I generally don't do a whole lot of pre-practice and just go into an event and just kind of learn things as I go. That's kind of the process that works for me. So I like making sure all of my tackle, I usually tear my boat apart, tear everything out of my truck and my camper, and then put it all back together and make sure that it's perfect for that specific event. So I do a lot of prep, but it's usually not on the water, it's at home. And so my process has been working for me, and trusting my gut has been a big part of my success over the last couple of years. And so I'm going to stick with that mindset and just enjoy it.
Mississippi River probably has a lot of preparation involved in it. I mean, you've got a lot of options with a lot of boats and a lot of research that you can do on that body of water. But I mean, it's got to be a lot of work getting ready for the one that's coming up next week.
Oh yeah. I'm actually getting ready for all 3 events because I'm going to be in the camper the entire time for a month and a half. So I've got to pack for all 3 of those events and make sure I don't leave anything behind, because it's kind of hard to get a hold of tackle right now in some places. So I have to bring everything that I own with me. And so I'm reaching the absolute maximum capacity of my dually right now, I think, with tackle.
OCD guy, or is it, hey, I know that I'm going to need this at this tournament, so I'm going to chuck it in a Rubbermaid tub, and then the day before practice, rummage through it, get it, and throw it in the boat? Or is everything labeled and perfect?
A little bit of both. I've got some things that are my core baits, like I've got a lot of Z-Man baits on my camper. I've got something I call the Z-Wall, and it's essentially this big cabinet that's like 5 foot tall, and it's all pegboard on the back of my camper, and it's all Z-Man stuff. So I organize it in there, and then everything else just gets thrown in a big Rubbermaid container.
That's pretty funny. All right, man, you mentioned Z-Man. I'm curious, they had quite the virtual iCast. They came out with some new stuff. How much involvement did you have with that, and what was really kind of what you're excited about from a new product standpoint from Z-Man?
Well, the great thing about working with Z-Man is they utilize their entire team very well. So they gave each of us kind of a project. I ended up doing a video that they haven't released yet for the eye strike chatterbait, and some of the other guys did some of the other baits that were being introduced, but. They blew me away this year. I mean, some of the products that they actually announced, I hadn't even heard about. And it was like some of them I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And I saw some like prototypes like at the office when I visited them last December, and so I saw a lot of the stuff. But it's incredible how much they're innovating every single year, especially in like the chatterbait line. The chatterbait line, they got the Eye Strike coming out, that Willow vibe. I wish I could get my hands on some of those for some of these events coming up. You got of course the Stealth Blade jackhammer. That one's pretty sweet looking, and then you also got the Cross Eyes chatterbait. So like the chatterbait that they came out with, as well as some of the plastics like the Elastec material, like the goats. I'm excited about that one and a lot of the other ones. So. It's been incredible seeing their progress making these different designs that work very well with that Elastec.
I got a package from my dad about a month ago. I can't believe I haven't mentioned this on the show. And you know what he does? He collects farm tools, even though we don't farm.
I have no idea.
Like,
I didn't know that.
hay picker-uppers and like hay trolleys.
What, has he got a combine in the backyard?
And,
I mean, what are you talking about?
Antique soldering irons. Like probably 500-600 of them. But here's what he does with them. He labels all of them, and then he has this subscription to this deal where he goes in, he prints the patent out, and then he has it so like you have an antique soldering iron. Here's where it came from. Here's who designed it.
That's kind of cool.
And here's the patent for it.
Yeah.
So, we've done a lot with the chatterbait there, with the Ronald R. Davis, the Rad Lures, going through all of it. So a month
documentary.
ago, open up this thing, and it's a pack. It's probably about 20 pages, and it is the original comprehensive. What did I just call them? Good Lord. Patent. It is the original comprehensive patent for the chatterbait that was submitted in 2004, not approved till like 2009. It's got 15 pages of photos of all of it, and then just tiny little print for 3 or 4 pages. It's everything. It is the patent for the chatterbait.
Where'd he get that at?
I don't know. It came to the mail. I need to bring it into the studio because
that would be cool.
It's
back
super
on the rack.
cool because it's what exists. It's the Bible of bladed jigs.
Is it a copy? It can't be the original.
No, it's not the original. I mean, he printed it out.
Yeah.
But I had just never seen an actual patent, and I was like, well, how difficult can it be? Oh my God, you read the language, it's like reading like the old King James version of the Bible for a couple paragraphs. It's insane, but it's really cool, and I need to bring it into the studio.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, have you ever seen that, Miles?
I have not seen the patent. It's probably worth quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
That copy.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Am I not supposed to have it?
You printed it off, right?
Yeah.
I mean, anybody can print it off.
Well, I don't know exactly how he got it, but I mean, my dad's living in Central Illinois. He's a beekeeper collecting soldering irons. I don't think he's got like an inside line to the illegal patent black market.
You might get a phone call from Daniel. Who knows? It's Z-Man. I don't know.
Well, I just thought it was really cool.
Bring that sucker in, man.
I'm pretty sure that any patent is available you can look at, because how would you know if you're infringing a patent if you can't go and look at it?
I'm sure their attorney would let you know. Somebody's going to let you know.
So let me ask you guys. So after seeing all of that, and I know you guys, Matt, you probably throw a chatterbait a lot. Like, out of the products that were coming out, what were you most excited about, or just kind of perk your ears up a little bit?
Go ahead, Mark. I mean, mine's a loaded answer.
Yeah, I know what he's going to say. He's going to say the BFE, obviously.
Little soft plastic flip-a bait.
That him and Bradley
It probably is deadly on the back of a chatterbait. Mark, what did you...
No, the new hammer.
The jackhammer?
Yeah.
With the clear...
Yeah, I think that's cool.
You think the clear blade makes that much difference? I mean, you still got metal there, and the hook, the whole 9 yards.
I actually think that there's something to it, because when I first heard about it, I was like, okay, we'll see how that works. But I got some, and the blade is actually significantly smaller, and it hunts a lot. The model, the ones that I got, they hunt like crazy, and so they've got a completely different action. It's a much tighter wobble to that blade. I think it's going to create a different sound. I don't know if the clear blade is going to make as big of a difference, but I think that this chatterbait's definitely going to have a spot in my box for sure. But it's definitely a really good, and it's got a much lighter wire hook on it too. So I think it is going to excel in clearer water than a normal jackhammer.
Pretty interesting.
Have you thrown that one that Thrift was throwing earlier in the year in the BPT with the giant blade?
I did, like that really big one back in the day. Yeah, I did back in the day. I don't know. That came out a long time ago, and I couldn't get anything going on it, to be honest with you.
Because you were throwing the new 1.25 ounce one, weren't you, at Chickamauga?
Ooh, yeah. So that one is actually something I've been doing a lot. I decided to kind of let that one out of the bag at Chickamauga. I made the top 10. I was like, let's just do it. But that's one of my best deep water baits, is that 1.25 ounce and the 3/4 ounce model. I mean, it's pretty incredible.
Fish it like a plug, or fish it like a spoon, or like a jig?
You can fish it all of those ways. Like yesterday, I went out with some buddies, and we were fishing 35 feet of water on Chick, and fishing it like a spoon, just kind of ripping it off the bottom, and then we kind of were just slow rolling it back to the boat. And some of them, actually most of our bites came just slow rolling it through the water column, because a lot of those fish were suspended up in the water column because the current hadn't really started quite yet.
You ever run into Jacob Wheeler out there? You ever just like out for a fun day, and like you're like, damn, that Wheeler's out here?
I have a feeling that Wheeler's out there in like a fake mustache or something.
You really never have run into him? You seriously have?
I've run into him once.
I mean, it's not that big of a lake.
I'm out here a lot. Yeah, it's not. And I've run into him one time, and outside of that, I never. I did bump into him during practice for the event. I was like, that guy looks like Jacob Wheeler, but it was just this unmarked Triton, and it was. So I bumped into him then, and I actually bumped into him again on, I think, day 2 or day 3. When I was going into Dallas Bay. I was ripping around the corner, and then all of a sudden I see like 30 bass boats over here. I'm like, what is going on? And I tried to split the difference, and then I realized the guy that I'm splitting the difference with is Jacob in his unmarked Triton, and so I just kind of went around him. But it was pretty. Those are the 3 times that I've actually bumped into.
That's crazy.
Him.
He's like seeing a Sasquatch out there.
He's like a ghost. He's like a ghost out here.
You see Michael Neal and Buddy Gross and those guys more, and Andy Morgan and stuff at all?
I see their trucks all the time, and I see Buddy out there occasionally. Not as much this year. I don't know if that's because they're going to be fishing the elite. I'm not sure. But I'd never see Andy out there because I live on the south end of the lake. And Andy probably always puts in Dayton. So I pretty much don't see a whole lot of the guys. I usually see guys that are just traveling through, but I definitely don't see Jacob that much, oddly enough.
Interesting. All right. Yeah. Hey, Miles, can you see that comment or question on your screen? I'm just curious.
Yeah. So I have not, but I saw it, and I didn't even know it existed. From Z-Man, and they're like, yeah, we haven't, we're I'm just like, I need one of those, and so they haven't really pushed them as much, but I'm gonna try to get some, because that would probably actually be a pretty good bait for the type of stuff that I do out here on Chick.
All right, real quick, let me make sure that everybody knows what he's talking about. Chuck Fish asked the question, has Miles ever used a hair jig chatterbait? And that was Miles' response.
We'll bring Wheeler back into it. Wheeler said that the hair jig is played out and not really part of his arsenal unless it's a super specific deal, and that since everyone throws it, it's no longer nearly as effective as it used to be. Was he BSing us, or would you agree?
No, Chick is very susceptible to pressure. This lake more so than any other lake I've ever been to. So I mean, I've caught 2 fish on a spoon this year. I've only had one day where I actually caught them on a crankbait. So it's like some of those key ledge baits are just not playing anymore. And so you got to get creative or just fish painfully slow. And that's the weird thing is like, I haven't caught hardly any fish on a big, 10-inch worm this year, which is bizarre.
Huh.
Yeah.
How do they get conditioned to a react? Like how? My question is, how do you get conditioned to a hair jig? It's like the Ned rig of offshore baits.
Yeah, I mean, I would be.
They just know
too if I got caught 50 or 60 times in the last week. The crazy thing about this lake is like there's no secrets. The only secrets on this lake, it's not about location. Everybody knows exactly which locations they are. It's just which locations are holding the fish on that day. That is the biggest factor. And so after those fish get hit for a while with a certain bait, I think that they really do turn off of it. And I don't know, maybe it's something that has nothing to do with fishing pressure, but I have seen it, especially with the spoon this year. It's been driving me crazy that I can't get on a spoon bite because I love that bite.
Do you just see guys out there just flashes of metal in the air as you drive down the lake on the ledges?
All the time. You just see this it just flashing in the sky, and it only goes like 20 feet in front of the boat. It's the most painful thing. You can never get like a straight cast. It's like I was afraid at Chick of hitting Terry if I picked up one because he was like 20 feet right next to me, fishing offshore. Which, by the way,
just
we had
a hard
great
hook
time.
to the right.
Yeah. Just all of a sudden hit Terry Scroggins right in the face. That would have been terrible.
Wow.
Oh, he would. I could just picture him. Whoa! Watch a hammer.
Dude, let me tell you something. That was one of the coolest experiences. I don't know if everybody that's watching knows, but on live, the first day especially, I was right next to Terry Scroggins. I got to the spot. He came up, and it's just a part of the game when you're fishing a lake like Chick with that many people that you got to work together. You can't just say, this is my spot, And so we worked together, and it was very amicable. We enjoyed, fishing next to each other. But we both had our trolling motors. I had my motor guide on anchor mode, and we're just sitting on the back deck. He's sitting on his seat with his legs just propped up on his engine, and just casting a drop shot and a shaky head. It was pretty incredible.
Wow. Wow. All right. On the instant feedback, Joe wants to know, what trailer are you using on the 1 1/4 ounce?
So
chatterbait?
I use the same trailer for all that. The whole key to that bite is a fast fall. So because it's 1 1/4 ounces, it's great for making long casts and getting to the bottom fast, but it's also really good for getting a reaction strike. So I don't ever use like a boot style swim bait tail that tends to tends to kind of slow the fall like a parachute. I like to use a straight tail type bait. And the razor shads from Z-Man is the best one that I've found. It's a little segmented, like almost like a jerk bait. Doesn't have a paddle tail on it, but it has just the right action, but it allows that bait to have a nice quick glide to the bottom.
All right, I'm going to say this, Matt, and we've been doing this show a long time, and I really, really like Miles, obviously, as an angler for what he's doing and what he's come through. But listen, there are a lot of guys out there that have become more brand loyal. And what I mean by that is when you take a look at what took place in the 90s and early 2000s, you had a lot of guys out there that were sponsored by companies of which they might take the Yum baits and put it in a Zoom pack to where it looked like that they were using
Can't do that
Zoom.
anymore.
You can't really do that anymore because of television and the live
you can do it if you
coverage
finish
and everything.
11th, but if you're in the top 10.
But still, there are a lot of guys out there that have become extremely brand loyal. Obviously, you're being compensated by Z-Man. And all the guys out there are being compensated either monetarily or by product. But to utilize the tools that you have based upon what these companies are providing, Miles is one of the guys that I've really noticed that he is all in with the products and the companies that he's involved with. And it doesn't matter if somebody's over here catching him on whatever, on an XYZ. he is sticking with the companies that are supporting him and making it work. And that is the cool thing about his success, is he has really driven home how loyal and important that the companies that he's involved with has really contributed to your success. Am I dead wrong on that, Miles?
I'm still here. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Dude, it's awesome. And that's, see, there's some companies that you may not be able to fish as much of their product line consistently, but Z-Man's, I mean, you guys have seen it every single year. They come out with a dozen new products and twice as many new colors. It's just crazy what they're doing. So it makes it really easy for me to do my job with those products. And I've really grown to believe in those products. And one of the great things about Z-Man is that they listen to their pro staff. Like, I can go to Daniel, I can go to the rest of the team there and say, I'd really like to get this bait. I'm currently working on, multiple bait lines with them, different types of Elastec baits and things of that sort. And we're kind of hashing through the good ideas and the bad ideas. And that's one of the great things about that company is I've been with other companies that don't really necessarily listen or they don't necessarily want to dive into that bait design, but Z-Man tends to really want to build the baits that work with their current product line and that Elastec material, and also that help us be effective out on the water. So it's really not a full-time job for me to just use Z-Man stuff majority of the time. And believe me, I don't just use Z-Man stuff all the time. There's sometimes that they don't have something that I need for a situation. And usually it's when they don't have that type of bait design in their line. But the great thing is I can go to them and I can say, listen, this is where you're missing out. Let's try to build something. And they do, if it makes sense for them.
Yeah, and Z-Man's not the only company, and Miles isn't the only
100%.
angler that this tactic or practice has really kind of been entrenched and evolved over the last 5-6 years. Strike King, Big Bite, Berkeley, Pradco. I'm seeing this trend over the last few years where guys are becoming more and more brand loyal to the companies that are paying based upon the products that they're using. And that's kind of a dumb statement, but it didn't used to be that way, Miles.
Right.
It really didn't.
I've seen a lot of, guys that, try to hide. I generally don't, if I'm catching fish on a Z-Man bait, I will tell you, if I'm not, I'm either, I'm not going to say that I caught it on a Z-Man bait. Or whatever product that I'm using. That's the beauty of I've got companies that I work with that they just like Bass Boat Electronics. Those guys, I use every single brand of electronics. I don't have to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. It's a beautiful thing, man. I love it.
Yeah. All right. A couple of people on the instant feedback want to know your thoughts on the Motor Guide trolling motor that you're using.
So far, I love it, man. When I got it right before Chickamauga, so I haven't been able to use it for all that long now. But the anchor mode is spot on. I mean, they've got a really good. In fact, a couple times at the ramp, I on a windy day when there's a lot of boat traffic on the weekends out here, I'll put it on anchor mode right next to the dock, carry the lanyard with me, and then I'd come right back and it's in the same exact spot. So it is super precise, and so far it's been working really good, and it's really easy to learn. It's not like all over the place like some of the other motors that I've seen. When you first get on the boat with them, it seems like the steering is a lot easier to get used to right off the bat. So far so good. I love it.
All right, I know Matt kind of mentioned it because you brought up some of the conversation about the big water, but what is your experience on Sturgeon Bay, and what is your experience out of Sandusky? 0 on both, correct?
0. Actually, Sandusky, I did take the ferry to Kelly's Island once. Does that count?
100%.
Okay, yeah. So I've got plenty of experience off of a dock on Kelly's Island and the quarry on Kelly's Island. So I think I'll be all right. No, but for real, I have 0 experience on both of those fisheries. It really, I think the fishing is going to be fairly straightforward. I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible and not try to overload myself with different tactics. I think I'm going to do some of the things that I like to do. Like I like dragging baits on the bottom, so fishing a tube and a drop shot and a Ned rig are going to be big players for me. And I'm going to keep it really simple. And I think that my experience with big water in Alaska is really going to allow me to, it's going to do one of two things. It's going to allow me to actually make those long runs, or it's going to deter me just from being overly cautious and make me stay close by while everybody's making those long runs. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Does it bug you like when you see social media posts from Alaska when certain stuff's going? Like Pete Robbins was just up there on the Neck out of King Salmon. Does it like does it like bother you when you're like, dang, I'm not going to make it up there this summer?
Well, I think I am going to make it up there.
Oh, really?
Who knows? I'm going to be up there as soon as I get back from the title, which hopefully I'll qualify for. I'm going to have 3 days at home and then hop on a plane, and my wife and I are going to go up there, her for a week, me for 3 weeks, and do my annual trip. But I have no idea if that's going to go down. I mean, if they do like another 14-day quarantine for people flying in, I don't know how that's going to work. But I watch. Every once in a while, I'm actually sipping on my Alaska cup right now. But every once in a while I get a little bit homesick of up there, and I just start thinking about it. And if I see something on Facebook, it's like, oh, I want to go, guide for some halibut and salmon. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I'm about every 3 to 4 years is how often I get up there. And it's been 3 years.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
Kenai.
Kenai? Sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet.
And then all over there, like I've been to the Neck there, the base of the Aleutian Island chains all over, Anchor River, Talchalit.
Right.
They've done the halibut thing once or twice. I mean, once you've done it, you've done it. You're there for the meat after the first time.
Garage door, right?
Them. I don't like catching them. I like guiding for them because it's really a big play on the tides and timing. And I really enjoy that. I don't like trolling for salmon that much. I will say it right here. But I do it, up there quite a bit. In fact, I troll for halibut. Have you ever caught a halibut trolling for salmon?
No, I've never done the salmon trolling. Like I said, my buddy lives up there, but we had an opportunity to, and I was like, nah, man, it's like just an overgrown walleye.
Every once in a while, if it's a slow salmon day, I'll troll over a high spot and pretend like I didn't know what I'm doing, and we'll either catch some rockfish or some halibut, just to keep the rods bent, keep everybody kind of engaged.
It's very interesting up there. All super tide dependent and current dependent. Like I mean, you've got your deal, and then when it's done, you're done.
Right.
It's like time to go in.
I hear like the St. Lawrence, or it's not St. Lawrence, but the Detroit River has a lot of flow, just like up there, like 6 knot current and stuff. Just like, ooh, that's going to be interesting to deal with that.
No, I've done it in June, July, August, and October, later October. Like I've done it early. I tried to get in on everything. I'll tell you what, the October thing was by far the most fun.
Yeah,
because there's no one there. I mean, I'm just out with my buddy on the drift boat and catching them, and
on a river. Fat. October would be phenomenal. It would be great, but don't go out offshore. Plan on going on an offshore trip during October. I can tell you that much.
No.
I've had to take the boats from our lodge around the island for winterization, and it can get pretty hairy that time of year.
Yeah, that was a rainbow and then early steelhead deal there. But there's no one up. There's no one up there. It's amazing. I mean, you get less fishing time, but when you are fishing, it's just like they're gorging themselves.
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy.
There's no compare. Like, what compares to a wild rainbow? Is there a fish? I mean, I guess the closest would be a 4-pound smallie.
A tarpon. Like a little baby tarpon, pound for pound. That's got to be the coolest fish to catch.
I would venture to say probably 75% of the people listening to Bass Talk Live have in their mind a 15-inch stalker trout and a split shot and Berkeley power bait or corn or a little spinner or something. Like this is
those trout that have those just smushed in like huge, like they look like a tick. They just got those smushed faces and those just round bodies. Yeah. That's not a real trout.
It's just totally different when it's totally different. You can't even describe what a wild rainbow that came out of the Kenai Lake and went up the river and's been gorging on decaying flesh and eggs for the past month. And then you hook them in that current and they jump and you're like, okay, I have no control over this thing for the next little while.
There you have it.
Well, bringing it back to like the Great Lakes and like fishing in Alaska, I really do think that my experience in big water is going to play a big role, and my meticulous nature when it comes to my equipment, like doubling up on the bolts on the back of the engine and making sure everything's through bolted as opposed to screwed in, and I keep a bunch of cam straps with me, so I strap everything down if I need to. I think my meticulous nature on that respect is going to play a big role, and that's all because of Alaska. Because if your engine falls off in Alaska, you're in real big trouble. Let me tell you.
That's not good.
I need to actually buy a VHF radio, I think, for up there, because I think Coast Guard is a pretty prominent force out there on the Great Lakes, and making sure you have a line of communication with them in an emergency would be good.
It's a good idea. Very good idea. All right, man, a couple of electronic questions real quick, and then we'll let you go.
Let's do it.
John in Kentucky wants to know, have you added 360 to your arsenal, and what are the advantages over live scope?
I did. I actually, it was not something I was planning on, but I went up to my buddy Jason's shop, who owns bassboatelectronics.com, and we went up there because we were trying to figure out how to make the perspective mode for Garmin work on my trolling motor, but there's just not enough space to be able to do that with the units that I got up there in the trolling motor. So he's just like, what do you think about 360? I'm like, I have never really tried it. I'd love to try it. And he's just like, let's put one on. So we put a Solix unit up there on the bow, and man, it is really, really cool because at Chick specifically, I had a situation where that spot that I was fishing with Terry for the first couple days, it ended up having some like little isolated rock piles. And when the motor is on anchor mode, you can't use Panoptics to go, search the area. So, but the 360 is constantly going. So, and you can tell which direction objects are based on, the directional heading of that on the screen, So I could tell that there was a rock pile over here, and there was several fish that I ended up catching because I knew exactly where I needed to cast, even in anchor mode. So 360 plays a big role, and it also plays a big role in like if you're fishing like a grass line, trying to find that grass line and where it dips in and out. It's a big tool. I tend to lean more towards Panoptics still, but 360 is pretty incredible.
All right, there you have it. And then our good friend Mike in New York, he had a long post on here, but I'm pretty much going to sum it up. Lucas talked about differentiating fish on the graph, whether it's a carp or a smallmouth or whatever.
Right.
All right. Based upon the structure that was in the surrounding area, what is your best tip on really trying to identify species on your electronics?
That's a really good question, and it's something that I think all of us keep learning as new technology comes out. But the biggest thing that I had to learn when it came to finding bass as opposed to other species is their orientation to the bottom. Now, we all know that bass suspend and they can be up in the water column, but generally, if you're looking for a school of fish, they're not going to be stacked vertically. They're not going to be stacked vertically that often. There's certain times where maybe a school is coming up to feed on bait fish and you just happen to graph over them as they move up. But generally, the bass are going to be kind of spread loosely across the bottom. The first few feet of the bottom, like if I'm ledge fishing, they're all going to be very tightly knit on the bottom. But there's one species that really can fool you once you learn what a bass looks like, and that is catfish. schools of catfish, man, they look very, very similar to bass on the graph. And the biggest way that I can tell the difference is they have a little bit, I call it, they look kind of furry. They kind of have this kind of light, edge to them, which is one way. It's not a very good way to tell the difference. But another way is to see how they kind of school together. Catfish tend to school a little bit more tightly in unison. At least out here on Chickamauga, I've seen that a lot. And where they're pointed the same direction, bass are just all over the place. They like have ADD. So you see like little dots, you see big dots, you see, fish pointed in all different directions. But generally bass are going to be very close to the bottom in loosely knit schools.
All right, there you have it, dude. How many days are you going to be on the road?
I don't know how many days, but it's going to be a month and a half.
Wow.
Part of me's looking forward to it. Part of me is definitely already missing, being home with my wife and the dog. But Katie will be able to fly up to the title if I make the title. So that'll be good. But it'll be a good experience going up there, staying in the camper and just kind of learning these smallmouth fisheries. And I hope that it ends up being a profitable swing.
All right, man. Pulling for you. Great year so far, man. And 3 events remaining. And hopefully you will continue to perform at the level that you have so far this year, man. So wish you the best of luck, and we'll be watching.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Matt, good luck in the next Open.
Thank you.
Do it.
I hope so.
All right. There you have it, Miles Burghoff. All right, man. See you later, Miles.
Yeah.
See you guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right. There you have it, Miles Burghoff. Good stuff, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's never stopped catching them since he started. This is only his second year.
Yeah.
Remember, he was a rookie last year. He was leading the Angler of the Year race. Now he's in the top 10 again.
Hard work.
When did they start the 3-year rolling average? Was it last year?
I think so.
That guy cracks, he finished 15th? I think it ended up finishing 15th in the Angler of the Year last year. If he cracks a top 10 this year, he's got to be one of the guys headed to MLF in 2 years.
You would think.
Depending on what the landscape may or may not look like in 2022, Markley.
Oh, you're right. I mean,
who knows?
Who knows on that one? All right. Quite a few questions about the BFE and the BTL color, man. Any update on that?
No. I just know what they tell me.
And what was it that they told you?
That it'll be on the Big Bite Bait website soon.
All right.
And they're pouring
and Tackle Warehouse.
Yeah, you can get 9 colors on Tackle Warehouse right now.
All right. And dude, you need to make sure you get some of those in your hands so we can give them away on the show.
I will. I put that call in. So.
All right. We are off, folks. Matt and I are going to fish together first time in, what do we say, 10 plus years probably?
First time ever that I've ran the show, though.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait. I know, what is it, 3 hours, 4 hours?
The Derby?
Yeah.
Starts at 6. It'll either be 9 or 9:15.
So 3 hours, basically.
3 fish limit.
We got to figure something out.
Want me to bring you some White Claws?
I don't even know what that is.
What are some of the other seltzers? Trulies? You want me to bring you some Trulies?
Regular water is okay, dude.
You got to crack one open during the Wednesday night.
Oh, is that what it is?
You got a beer fish.
Wow.
You have one before, and then you can't open up a new one until you put the first keeper in the box. Then you have a celebratory.
How about some PBR?
Celebratory.
PBR, maybe?
No.
No PBR?
Celebratory beer fish. And then you'll typically go into a lull. So then you have a get out of the lull beer.
Yeah.
And then you crack a couple really fast fish, that is. And then you have one on the way in, because by the time you get through the weigh-in and all that stuff, you've had 3 beers, and then 2 of them have worn off, and now you're good to go.
Yeah.
That's the chart for the Wednesday night beer drinking.
Okay. I'm glad I know that now. And I have to pay for this, right?
Yeah, we have to pay I think we have to pay because we're a new team. It's going to be $70
a piece?
No, total.
Oh, okay.
We've got like a $10 deal.
It's all good.
We have to
man.
register as a team, and then we have to pay the entry fee for tonight.
All right, it's all good.
It's a one-time deal, though.
We will see what happens. We will give you the scoop on Monday, folks. Hopefully we will have, I don't know if we're going to have the winner because obviously back-to-back events, but just check out the schedule on bassown.com. I want to thank Dave Mercer for taking time out to give us some insight on what's going down this week, and then Miles Burghoff for being on live via video. That's it, folks. Everybody be safe. We're back on Monday. We're out of here.